morning. If you are watching this video today, I hope that you already have in front of you the PowerPoint slides that you can download from the website at kingcounty.gov/giving, and a copy of the paper application either pulled up on PDF or printed out so that you can follow along with this video. Welcome to the 2013 Nonprofit Application Workshop. I want to thank you all for being here today and watching. I'm going to tell you a little bit about the program, about how to apply to be in the program, and then what you can come to expect over the next year. First, I'd like to start off by letting you know that there have been some big changes this year. So if you've applied before, please pay attention when you fill out the application to answer everything correctly and to give us updated information. So let me tell you a little bit about the King County Employee Giving Program. The King County Employee Giving Program is the workplace giving program for employees of King County government. We have about 14,000 King County employees located all around the county. It is governed by King County Code. All charitable solicitations of King County employees must happen through the program. So this is your opportunity as a nonprofit organization to gain access to those employees. We conduct the 7-week annual giving drive that happens in the fall. We also do any emergency drives that happen throughout the year for natural disasters. And then of course all year long we're doing outreach like this to nonprofits. We are cutting the checks to the nonprofits. We are vetting the nonprofits, which is why you're all here today for the application process. And we're responding to employee inquiries. Employees can give in 3 ways through the employee giving program. They can give through payroll. They can give through something that's called time donation, which is a different kind of payroll deduction. It's where they can convert their vacation or comp time into cash for a donation. They can also give by direct check. We also do things like special events and fundraisers during the annual giving drive, which you'll have an opportunity to learn more about. The King County Employee Giving Program is governed by a committee made up of employees from all around the county. And one of the things that we have done over the last couple of years is done research to make sure that our eligibility standards are industry best practices. So you are going to see some changes to our eligibility process this year. Because they're based on industry best practices, we actually think that more quality nonprofit organizations are going to be eligible for our program. So we encourage you to take a look at it. As a result of that research, we updated the King County Code. We instituted a series of public rules that took into account nonprofit feedback, and you can find that on the website as well. And we also formalized the process for shared tax identification numbers, or nonprofits that share their tax identification number with their national chain and governmental units. So I'm going to encourage you that if you are in one of those situations, that you check out the instructions that go with the application and the website for more information. Today is going to focus on the independent nonprofit organization application specifically. So there are 2 different applications this year. This is different from last year. Last year we had 3. This year there are only 2. It is the Federation application. So federations, and for the most part you know who you are, they represent a group of nonprofit organizations, and they apply using a spreadsheet and the paper application. The other kind of application is for independent nonprofit organizations applying directly to the program. Last year we distinguished between new and returning. But because so many of our requirements have changed this year, we're asking everybody to fill out the same application and provide the same paperwork to make sure that we start off correctly. However, the way that we've designed it is that hopefully next year and the years to come, the returning process will be very easy. In fact, we're looking at creating an online way that you can go in and update your information quickly with a click of a button. So, little work up front, but we're looking to make it much more streamlined in the future. And in fact, you should have an online option this year in order to provide some of that information to us. That way we don't have to have all the paper printed off. Now, the best way I think to walk through the application is literally to walk through the application with you. So that way you can see what it is that you need to be marking, where it's at. and I can answer questions at the end. The first part of the first page of the application is, and this is available in a fillable PDF, is contact information. This is who I need to be able to contact at your organization for nonprofit expo opportunities, application next year, direct checks, things like that. There's a line for a finance person, finance contact and title. Make sure that the person who needs your donor reports in order to process your checks is on that line. Also, there's a line for physical address and mailing address. And then a question directly below it, is the above mailing address where you want checks to be mailed to? If the answer is yes, you can just check the box. If the answer is no, and you have a different mailing address for checks, please put that on a piece of letterhead and make sure that you upload that or email that to me along with your application. Section number 2 is organization information. This is different than contact information. Organization information is for stuff that we will be putting in our publicity materials. So the catalog on the website and things like that. Please make sure that you proofread this area very closely. I try to catch things, but ultimately the responsibility is that I get this information from you correctly. I want to make sure that websites are up to date, no misspellings, things like that. Service categories. I'm going to ask you to tell me your top 3 service categories. These are not on the actual application. These are located in the instructions that go along with the application in order to save space. So the first service category should be the first place where people would look for you. I've had organizations that just fill it out alphabetically, and then somebody says to me, why is this organization listed under that category as their main service category? It makes no sense, and your donors can't find you. So what I tell my nonprofits to do is think, if somebody wanted to give to me, where would they look for me? And that's anywhere from children, women, veterans, things like that. If you filled this out before, we changed this 2 years ago. So please make sure that you double check your service categories and don't just copy from the applications from the year before, because last year we had quite a few nonprofits that didn't catch that it was updated, and we got very funky service categories for some folks. I believe it was one of our animal organizations that actually ended up in the arts section, and I got all kinds of phone calls saying, why are they in the arts section? Also, make sure that if you do not have a website, some of our smaller nonprofit partners don't have websites, and that's okay, but please put in the website line, no website. That way I know it wasn't just an error of omission. New to this section, we have asked for if you've been rated by any of the organizational nonprofit industry rating organizations like the Better Business Bureau Wise Giving Alliance, Charity Navigator, or GuideStar. And if you have, to please provide us URLs to your ratings. During our research over the last couple of years, we did hear from our employees and our donors that they wanted more information about our nonprofits and places where they could go to get that. And these were some of the favorites, if you will. So if you could provide us with that, that would be wonderful. It is not required. If you haven't been rated by them, that's okay. Right below that is the organization short description. This is the short description that goes into the organizational alphabetical listing with your name and your website and your address, and then a little short description about your organization. 150 characters maximum without spaces. Word has a really great function in it that can count those spaces for you. Just so you know, once you are in the program, I will be sending out an invitation to our Nonprofit Expo. At that time, I also send out a sheet that asks for more information about your organization. And that's an opportunity to give us an expanded or a long description about your organization. Even if you can't attend one of our expos, by providing that information, we can share that with our employees on our website through publicity materials and things like that. So please, even if you can't attend one of our expos, please fill out the additional information so we can share it with folks. All right, on page 2 or section 3 of the application, this is where we're answering yes or no or providing information about some of the eligibility requirements. This is where we've seen most of the changes. I have separated out the changes on your slides into status quo, meaning what is the same as the years before. So nothing has changed for those ones. What requirements have been slightly nuanced, updated, so you need to pay attention to those. And then which ones are new in your slides. I do want to point out that we did get rid of one eligibility requirement, and that was the requirement for the administrative and fundraising ratio. What we found in our research was that the AFR was actually not an accurate predictor of financial and fiscal stewardship of a nonprofit organization. And instead, we've introduced a different financial standard. And I will go over that when I get to that one. So question number 1. Tax-exempt status. So this is the first primary requirement, is that you should be a 501c3 or a governmental unit of the state of Washington. We do require a copy of your IRS tax-exempt determination letter. Now, I'm fully aware that some of you have tax-exempt determination letters from 1908. They can be very old. You just get them one time. So make sure that I just get a copy of that. I don't need an original or anything like that. Next year, once you're already in the program, next year I will not need this again because it doesn't change unless something about your organization has changed. B, charitable solicitations registration. In Washington State, any nonprofit organization, well, any organization in general, that wants to solicit for donations in this state must register with the Washington Secretary of State Charitable Solicitations Office. Even if you're in New York, you still have to register with that office. There are some exemptions, and I give you an opportunity to tell me if you are exempt. So please tell me yes or no if you're registered. And then if you're not registered, are you exempt, and what is your exemption, the specific exemption, and they do tell you what those are. And then I would like a copy of the URL of where you are located on the Washington Secretary of State Charitable Solicitations website. There is a link in our instruction sheet that takes you directly to their website so you can find yourself there. This also gives you an opportunity to make sure that your registration is current, because this is an annual registration. Therefore, every year, I need a copy of your letter that says that your registration is up to date. C, non-discrimination statement. All of our nonprofit organizations are required to affirm adherence to our non-discrimination policy or claim a legal exemption from. You simply just mark one of those boxes. D, length of existence. This one is one of those requirements that has changed slightly in that we've gotten more detailed. It used to be you just had to have been in active existence for 3 years. We now say, have you been providing or conducting real services, program assistance, benefits, or activities for at least the last 3 years? Generally, you can use your date of incorporation, and we ask for that here. If you are one of those organizations that has been around but was under a fiscal sponsor and are now have your own 501c3, your date of incorporation may not be 3 years ago. What I ask there is that you provide us with documentation to show that you've been providing real services for at least 3 years. Newsletters, profit and loss statements, minutes, anything that can provide proof of the assistance you've been providing. E, governance. This is the board requirement. Our board requirement has changed slightly also. Now we're asking, is your organization directed by a governing body, a majority of which is not compensated. So that means you can have a couple of compensated members, but those compensated members cannot be the board's chair or treasurer, and everybody must have signed a conflict of interest. This is not applicable to governmental units of the state of Washington. Financial accounting. This is what I was talking about earlier when I said we got rid of the administrative and fundraising ratio requirement. But instead, we've introduced what we found in our research to be a better indicator of fiscal stewardship, and that is review of your financial statements. So one, has your organization done produced an annual financial statement in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles? And then specifically, if more than 1 million gross annual income, were you audited? Did you have an audit done by an independent auditor? If you are between $1 million and $250,000, did you have an independent financial review done by a certified public accountant? And if you were under $250,000, if you in fact produced these, your internally produced complete financial statement. So you would just mark the question that applies based on your annual gross income. Okay, so on page 3 of the application, this is the certifications page, and there are some new certifications here also as a result of our research. You are certifying, well, that you read this application, and you read all the special notices and instructions that go along with it. You'd be surprised, I get lots of questions about where was that in the instructions, and they marked that box, so make sure that you have actually read them. I certify that this organization is in compliance with Washington state laws governing charities. Because everybody has to register with the Charitable Solicitations Office, we want to make sure they're all aware of what laws they have to be in compliance with. You are certifying that the organization's publicity and promotional activities are truthful and non-deceptive. You are certifying that you will provide a copy of your IRS 990, your financial report, your annual report, any documentation like that that will substantiate this application to the program, to the King County Executive, or the King County Council upon request. You are certifying that you prohibit the sale or lease or distribution of King County contributor lists. You are also authorizing that we can use any of the information that we collect in here for publicity and on our website and things like that. It's kind of hard to get it all from you and then not be able to tell the employees about you. So we want to make sure that we have that. Also, you are certifying that if in the event of fraud or failure of disclosure of not meeting one of the eligibility requirements, or if you become ineligible, that we can revoke the eligibility from the program. Also, you are certifying that everything that you've signed here is true and correct to the best of your knowledge, and that you will comply with all of the requirements. Now, what that means, though, is that the person who signs this has to be somebody within your organization that can be held responsible if something in this application is considered incorrect or fraudulent. We no longer require a notary, so therefore it's important that we have somebody sign it that is responsible for the organization. That is often your president of your board, treasurer of your board, the executive director, the chief financial officer, these kind of folks in high leadership positions. You can then print and then sign and turn it in. Also, at the bottom, I have included a quick checklist of attachments. That way you can look right back through it to make sure that you've got everything. One attachment that is on here that's not listed on the rest of the application is a W-9. We require a W-9 from all of our nonprofit organizations in order to pay you. So if you would like to get your check, please make sure that your W-9 is included. You can download a blank W-9 if you don't already have one from our website under the Helpful Documents link. Finally, and most importantly, turn this in on time. I don't know how many phone calls I get from organizations halfway through the year. They have this application and it never made it to me. Please make sure that you turn it in on time. Applications are due April 26th, 2013 by 4 p.m. I also want to talk a little bit about what to expect from here on out, a timeline, if you will. When you turn in your application, you will receive an email from me indicating that we have received it. Now, that email does not tell you that it's actually complete. If I have time to tell you that I've received it and it's complete, I will. But please don't assume that everything's okay with your application just because you got the email, unless I say so. But that will be the first email you got. We received it. Once your application has been processed and we're able to go through it, we will then take a look at it and will either be forwarded for approval or for denial. If it is complete and you've met all of the eligibility requirements, then you will be forwarded for approval. If you are missing something or if you are not eligible, then you may be forwarded for denial. Please know this is not a competitive process. Everybody who applies and meets the eligibility requirements and gets their application in on time and complete will be in the program next year. And in fact, we welcomed more than 140 new nonprofits last year through this process. Also, if there are issues with your application, I try very hard to work with you to get them worked out. I will call, usually I send an email first saying, hey, this is what you're missing. And we will try to get you all taken care of and get your application put together. Now, with that being said, if you are denied, you have an opportunity to appeal. We do have an appeal period, but make sure that your appeal is in on time. Oftentimes, if you were denied because you were simply missing a document, by making sure that we get that document in, you will have fulfilled the appeal period. Also, you will hear about that in June. If you are approved, expect to hear from us in June. If you are denied, you will hear from us in May. You will hear from us sooner because that's usually a smaller group of folks. And we want to give you as much time as possible to get your application corrected through the appeal process. If you are denied, you will receive both a hard copy and an email telling you why you were denied and how you can fix it. If you are approved, you will only receive an email. Now, this is very important. That's why the contact information on page 1 of your application is so important, because a majority of our communications, in fact, 90% of our communications is electronically. And if I don't have updated contact information, you will not receive the information you need. With that being said, I try really hard not to send emails that don't include important information about deadlines, updates, and things you need to know. So please make sure that you add our email address to your SAFE list, because there are, I like to say this all the time, there are 800 of you, 14,000 King County employees, and 1 of me. So any way that you can help with that is greatly appreciated. And it means that sometimes my emails get filtered to spam because we're sending to such a large group. So make sure you add us to the SAFE list. I don't want you to miss out on that. Now, you are applying, right now, you are applying for the 2013 annual giving drive that happens in the fall. And that is for donations in 2014. There is a great graphic that you can download from the website that kind of explains the application cycle to you, so you can see how it works. There are some nonprofits that are right now just getting their notification of the donations that they received during our annual giving drive that happened last fall for the application they submitted last April. So sometimes folks can be confused about whether they have applied again or if they need to apply again. Yes. All nonprofit organizations must reapply every year. So just because you're getting communication from me, don't assume that you have already filled out your application. Also, you will have the opportunity during the annual giving drive to attend some of our nonprofit expos. Very popular event. We always have a wait list. So when I send you the Nonprofit Expo email, please make sure that you RSVP as soon as possible if you want to get in to that event. Literally last year, we had about 40 organizations on our wait list. I can often accommodate quite a bit of the wait list, but not always. So the sooner the better. Literally, when I say these fill up fast, don't wait until the last day, because it is usually too late at that point. Also, employees, once you are in the program, employees can then invite you to come in and speak during the annual giving drive at their work site. And with 14,000 King County employees, I guarantee you there is somebody who likes your organization. And if you already know who they are, ask them to sponsor you to bring you in to talk at their work site. That is the fastest way for you to make that connection with folks here. Your organizational information will be listed on our website. It will be put out in emails. People will be printing it off and sharing it with their coworkers. You will be, and the more information you give me, the more information I can share about your organization. More than 80% of our nonprofit organizations receive donations. That is very impressive. And the average gift here at King County is $800. That is the power of payroll deduction. Research has shown that when people give by payroll deduction, they give 3 to 6 times more than if they give a one-time gift alone or give outside of payroll deduction even in a monthly fashion, because they don't have to remember to do it. They don't have to remember to write the check. They don't have to put that on their task list. It comes out seamlessly. Also, something you should know is that because of the application process, write-ins are not allowed during the annual giving drive. That's always a question we get. Can somebody just write us in? And the answer is no, because we have to make sure that all of the nonprofit organizations have been vetted before they get into the program. And therefore, if we allowed write-ins, it would kind of undermine the whole concept of vetting the nonprofit organizations. So now is the time to apply. You can participate in one of 2 ways. We talked about this earlier with the 2 different kinds of applications: the independent nonprofit organization application and the federated application. Independent nonprofit organizations apply directly to the program. And they get information from me, they get checks directly from the program. So there are some benefits to applying directly, but there are also some cons to applying directly. You have to have the resources to be able to respond to those requests. You have to, if you want to maximize all of your opportunities, can you come to everything? Do you have the folks to fill out the application and things like that? Federations, on the other hand, represent usually similar organizations. And we currently have 13 federations in our program. And they represent similar organizations. And so you apply to the federation, and the federation helps you apply not just to here, but to many different workplace giving programs. So you can access not just us, but then there's also the state, and there's the federal campaign, and the city, and they help gain you access to that, plus private sector workplaces as well. Additionally, we then just cut one check to the federation, and the federation can then cut you bigger checks because they are consolidating all of those funds. And finally, they also represent you. Federations tend to get priority on opportunities here at the worksite because they are representing a greater majority of the nonprofit organizations. And so they will represent you. They will provide materials at the events they come to. So even if you don't have the manpower, they do. That's what they're here to do. And they can hand out information on your organization. So 2 different ways. If you're interested in a federation, please check out the ones that are on our website and contact them directly. Now, once you are in the program, you will be assigned with a 4-digit code. It is your 4-digit unique identifier. Now, if you come into the program and if you stay in the program, your 4-digit number should not change. With that being said, there are a couple of situations where your number would change. If you change from being an independent nonprofit organization to a federated nonprofit organization, your 4-digit code would change. If you leave the program 1 year and then come back, it may change. Though I must tell you, if I suspect that you might be coming back, I keep your number reserved for you, so that way if you come back, you can get your same 4-digit code when you come back. But hopefully, I won't be having folks going in and out anymore. Also, folks can either designate to you directly or they can designate it to the program, the EGP, or undesignated in general. That's a very small part of the pot, because what we're doing is we are trying to target people giving directly to you, designating your organization specifically. But for those undesignated donations, those get put into a pot that then gets prorated out to all of the nonprofit organizations that receive donations. Per King County ordinance, the costs of the program are recovered through the donations. Now, for those of you who are in fundraising, which I'm betting most of you are who are watching this, you know the cost of fundraising can vary greatly based on the model that you're using. Workplace giving is one of the cheapest forms of fundraising for a nonprofit organization. Low risk, because there's nothing up front, and maximum impact. Again, remember, when people give by payroll deduction, 3 to 6 times more on average. Our average cost is about 8 to 12% per year of the total donations raised. And that depends. Our costs themselves are fairly static, right? They don't change for the most part. So the more money we raise, the lower overall percentage of the dollars raised. And when it's 8 to 12%, that is very competitive. Now, we work very hard, and anybody who knows me knows that I'm extremely frugal. I buy my labels at garage sales, so we're always working to keep costs low and find ways to cover those. If there is any money left at the end of the year, it is a zero-sum game. It goes back to the nonprofits. So we're literally just paying for the cost from year to year. That's it. And the rest is yours. Also, we send checks out quarterly to the nonprofit organizations. So you will receive a nice check quarterly and one donor report. That's one of the most powerful efficiencies of workplace giving. Instead of processing several checks, you get one check and one donor report, and with everybody's information on it in an Excel spreadsheet that you can upload right into your system. Now, what you do need to know is that workplace giving is one of the few ways that donors can truly give anonymously. And so about 70% of our donors here at King County do give anonymously, because for tax purposes, all they need is a copy of their last pay stub of the year and the pledge form. I literally don't know of anything that's easier from a donor perspective than being able to give to all my nonprofits in one place and then having all of my tax information come tax time in one place. And because of that, they don't have to release their information to the nonprofit in order to get tax documentation. So if you do get a donor report, and many of them look this way, that just says anonymous, 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 that is why, because people have chosen to remain anonymous. We do provide you, though, with a unique identifier, so that way you can track that unique identifier over time. Also, of course, don't forget to apply to the program. I don't know how many people have come to a workshop and then they think that they've turned it in, and they haven't. Thank you so much for attending our application workshop today. If you have any questions, please go to the website or call the program at 206-263-9405, or just send us an email and we'd be happy to answer any questions that you have. And again, we do have some live workshops coming up, so if you can attend in person, that would be great as well.